Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. That's Friday Homeschool. My name is Mrs. T. Today we're going to be doing a September update for homeschooling my kindergartner and my preschooler. So we've officially finished 28 days of school. Hooray! 3 of those I would say have been atypical days, so they were still school days, but what we did was not like our curriculum. And then the rest of them, all 25, have been, I would consider, typical days. We've been using our curriculum, we've been trying to establish a routine and a schedule, and they've been very full of content. So today I want to share with you some of our highlights, some of the things that we did improve upon, some of the things that we still need to improve upon, as well as some pieces of curriculum that I'm really not super stoked on after a month of using said curriculum. So let's go ahead and hop into it. I'm going to try to be as honest and frank as possible. So yeah, let's just go ahead and discuss. I have some notes, but I'm going to kind of let myself just go. All right, so we're going to start with the highlights. I always like starting things on a positive note. I would say I have 5 different highlights that I kind of jotted down. And the first highlight that I think has been just so good in the month of September, and really since the beginning here, has been our morning walks. We have been taking walks every single morning, rain or shine. We've only skipped it, I think, twice, and that was because one of my kids was feeling very sick, and then the other one, I don't even remember the reason why, but there were 2 reasons. But besides that, we have done morning walks every single day, and it has just been a really great way to start the school day. One, it gets us dressed, which I think has been for our family very important. Me in particular, if I didn't force myself to get dressed, I would be in my PJs all day. And honestly, before I started this routine, I would be in my PJs over half of the day, if not the full day, and I just feel better about myself when I get dressed. I mean, I'm not dolling myself up, I'm not wearing makeup or even nice clothes, but just getting out of my PJs and into something has made a huge difference for me mentally, and it's really good for the kids to not be, in their PJs all day long. So morning walks has been really successful. It's also really brought us a sense of connection with our location where we are. We've seen a lot of wildlife. We've picked, different nuts that we see. We've seen the leaves start to change as fall rolls in. And it's just been a really good experience. And it's such a peaceful way to start the day. I could not recommend it enough. If you can get outside in the morning, it's a really good time to do so. So morning walks were very successful. The next thing that I find to be very successful in the month of September has been our French. Our French has been wonderful. We've done French every single day except for 2 days in the month of September, and we've been very consistent about it, and my kids are picking up French very well. Now, it is a little slow moving. It's learning another language, and at this point in time, we've done things like our greetings, colors, numbers. We are asking how people are doing. We are saying what our name is and how old we are. So it's very basic. But both of my kids are doing it, and it's been a big success. We've really enjoyed the Les Loustiques program. I just feel very confident that that was the right program for us. And then supplementing with things like Coco Melon and other books that we have here at home has been a big success so far. Now, I picked up 2 workbooks. I had one called Sami Julie, and then I also had Mon Cahier. Between the 2 of them, we have leveraged only a little bit from both, and I don't think either of them were particularly necessary, but we are still going to keep working on using those workbooks, bits and pieces throughout the year. But I will say at this point in time, I think I'm already kind of planning on repurchasing the workbook that we're currently working on for my next kid. And then also we probably will move into the next level of the Les Loustiques program, which comes with 3 levels. So really, really pleased with the French portion. So that's been good. The next area I would say that has been really solid, it's a good highlight, is math. We've done math every single day in September, and I am just very pleased. Now, we kind of went a little bit overboard, and I say we, it was me, I'm the planner here, with our math curriculum. So we have Matthew C. Primer, we have Mathematical Reasoning Level A, we have Saxon Math K and Schiller Learning Math at Home Math Kit 1. 4 amazing pieces of curriculum. However, I would say that the bulk of my child's learning from these programs comes from Matthew C. Primer. This has been an incredible fit for my child, and Mathematical Reasoning Level A. This is the 3rd book he's using in that mathematical reasoning series, and it's a really, really good fit for him. Now, Schiller Learning Math at Home, we are enjoying it. We do like it. And they do approach certain topics a little differently from Matthew C. And I have found that to be very beneficial. But for the price point at this point in time, I would say we could have gone without. And for Saxon Math K, which is the level that we're in, it's just way below where he is with Matthew C. At this point in time, it's been primarily playing with teddy bear counters and pattern blocks, which my child enjoys, but it definitely is not challenging. I would not say that this is a challenging math for where my child is, but we're still using it. We will still implement it. It's actually really good for him to, like, it's kind of forcing us to do a little bit of play with things like patterns and things like that. But right now, for example, in the kindergarten, in Saxon K, he's starting to learn about patterns, and we're doing A-B patterns, but my child has loved making patterns for a couple of years now, so I don't find this to be particularly new or exciting, but he does enjoy it, so we are going to be, of course, continuing, and we will continue all 4. But math has been a definite success so far. Very, very pleased. Number 4 here that I have jotted down as being a good success are our read alouds. We have been very consistent with our read alouds. We've read out loud every single day, and we have finished a couple of things. So let's see. So far we have finished Anna Hibiscus, which I don't know if this was technically finished in September or August, but we finished Anna Hibiscus in the Very, Very Far North, and we loved this book so much that we ended up moving directly into the second one, which was not in our original plan. So originally we were going to go into My Father's Dragon after the Very Far North, but we shifted our daytime reading into Just Beyond the Very Far North, and as you can see, we're making progress in here. So we are actually on chapter 6 now, and we're really, really liking these books, like so much. But we are still reading My Father's Dragon. So we started reading this one at night. So we actually have 2 books going on, and my kids love it. These chapters are really small. They are the perfect bedtime chapter book for us to read, and we're really, really enjoying this book. In fact, we're enjoying it so much that I ended up actually purchasing just yesterday the next 2 in the series, and I think what we will do is just move on through this series at nighttime as part of our nighttime routine, because we do like to read a chapter book or part of a chapter book, and this is like perfect. So we have been reading that, and that's been wonderful. Now I am using a couple of picture book read aloud programs that are helping guide our read alouds for picture books, and I wanted to briefly mention these. I've talked about it in other videos. We are using Jacob's Ladder, and we are using Exploring the World Through Story, and there is a clear preference for my children. My kids love this Exploring the World Through Story. We flip-flop between Aesop's Fables and then Pourquoi stories or How-Why stories. And my children love everything that we have read so far. And these are small stories. Some of them have like 1 picture, like they're very basic. And my kids love them. They love them. And the discussion questions and the lessons themselves are not too long. It's not overwhelming, and it's a really good supplement to a language arts program. I'm very glad that we picked that up. Now, Jacob's Ladder here, we have been doing consistently. This is a lot more in-depth, and I will have a video coming out on this one here soon. But Jacob's Ladder, my kids, they're not a big fan of this one, but they like the books. They're just not a big fan of, like, I think they think it's a little overkill with some of the questions. So we definitely have had to, I don't know. I don't really know how to phrase it, to be honest. Like, I kind of going back and forth. I think this is a good program. I'm very glad that we're doing it, but it does feel a little overkill for the duration of how we were implementing it. So we definitely need to fix how we are implementing it. I think a better implementation would be chunking it a little bit different than how we were approaching it. So I'm still trying to figure out the best way to approach that, but still very successful. We're loving the books that we've read through there so far. And my kids are having really solid reading comprehension discussion questions. So read alouds, both from a novel perspective and a picture book perspective, have been really successful. And the last highlight that I just wanted to talk about are, I'm just going to say it, we're not burnt out yet. And that's a huge highlight. I think it's really cool how much we've been able to accomplish here with a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And we're not feeling burnt out at all. Now, this upcoming school week, or right now we're in October, first week in October. Next week, we actually are taking it off. We have 1 week off because we're doing that 6 weeks on, 1 week off schedule. And I'm glad we have that time off, but I don't feel like we are dying for a break yet. We've done a really good job with play breaks, with implementing outings and play dates. And I feel like has been very successful so far. We're not feeling that burnout, which I feel like is a huge highlight and definitely worth mentioning. Now, there are 2 subjects that I feel like we started our school year off with a rocky start, but we have improved our implementation of it in the past couple of weeks during the month of September, and I want to highlight those. So the first one is handwriting. Handwriting, I was really struggling with consistency, and I have finally gotten this where we're doing handwriting every single day, but I have changed my expectation a little bit, which has actually really helped and has alleviated some of the pressure for dedicating a good amount of time to handwriting. So right now we're doing it every day, and we do just 1 single page in our handwriting book. We're going through the Writing for Learning series, the manuscript. We're going to go through that book first before moving into our original kindergarten pick, which is Getty to Bay. And then we're doing just a couple of minutes in Explode the Code Book 1. And that has been better. Rather than trying to tackle like a full page of Explode the Code or multiple pages of handwriting, I think just setting lower requirements has helped us progress. And eventually, once we get more comfortable with it, perhaps we can add more. But I just think at this point in time, I almost was feeling like handwriting was falling off because it was a little bit too, I would say I was expecting kind of too much from a handwriting perspective of my 5-year-old. I felt like looking back at it, I'm like, okay, it was rocky because I was making it rocky. So we kind of have had some good improvement there. And then the other thing that we have had improvement over the past few weeks is phonics. So I don't know why. If you asked me like what some of our top most priority language or priority subjects are, I would definitely say phonics was up there. But for some reason, at the very beginning of the school year, we just weren't finding where it needed to fit in our schedule. And we have been much more consistent so far with improving that phonics implementation. And All About Reading is working well. Now, something that I did have to do with All About Reading is I did take some of the suggestions inside the program. They have different games and ways to make word review and letter review, sound review more engaging. And I have been implementing that a little bit with my child. Not every time, but it does mix it up a little bit, and it makes it less of a drag to have some of those different games implemented. And they're easy and they have just really basic rules. But it's been very helpful and has helped us do our phonics every single day. And then the other thing that I did do, you guys, I'm not above bribery. Sometimes we just need a little bit something to work towards. And I will say with All About Reading is you have these big lists of words and phrases and sentences, and we definitely need to break it up. It's too much for one sitting for my 5-year-old. But I have found that if I have like mini M&Ms and my child reads across a list of words and he puts an M&M at the last word, he will get further along because he's motivated to have 4 or 5 M&Ms instead of just 1 or 2. And it makes it a little bit more exciting, like he's earning something. It's not too crazy. We're not giving him a whole thing of candy. It's just a small amount. And yeah, we don't do it every time, but occasionally if I'm like, okay, I can tell we're gonna have a little bit of pushback today, I do go pull out one of those games or pull out those fun mini M&M rewards. So that has been helpful and has helped improvement. Now, there are a couple of subjects that we are still a little bit rocky with our implementation on, and I wanted to talk about those as well because we do have this requirement of still trying to figure out, our whole schedule and our whole flow because things are not perfect. And the first one I want to mention is science. We have not been consistently implementing science, though we are still doing science. So for example, we have a health component of our Science Through Science Weekly, or Studies Weekly is what it is called. And we are doing it, but we're only on week 4 and we're on week 6 of our homeschool. So we are definitely a little behind on that front. And I find that for Studies Weekly, for example, there are so many components that are included in so many activity ideas, but I don't feel like we really need to implement it all. And I was trying, before moving on and through a week, I was trying to pull in all of these things, which were meant for a classroom as opposed to homeschooling. So it almost postponed us moving on even though we were ready to move on. So science, I'm still trying to get my feet underneath us. BFSU, or Building Foundations of Scientific Understanding, is going really well. It's good. It's very good. But again, I'm not touching base on that as often. We've done it every week, but we are moving a little bit slower through it. And that's actually okay. I'm feeling okay about it, but I do want to improve it a little bit more with being a little more consistent with us doing it. Social studies is another one. Core knowledge, we really have been enjoying their history and geography level 0 or their kindergarten level, and we do really like it. But again, I've struggled a little bit with consistency as well with social studies. And the last thing is piano. My kid is doing weekly piano lessons, but he would definitely benefit from having more consistent piano practice here at home, and we just haven't found a groove for piano yet. And in fact, I could count on one hand how many times we've actually independently practiced piano since starting homeschool. It's been pretty rare. So I really want to try to increase that, but I haven't yet figured out how that's going to look like what that vision is. All right, so now you guys, now we're getting into a little bit of our, I will say, more negative side of things, and we'll say learning. There are 2 pieces of curriculum that we are using that are just blah. I don't find that they're really adding a lot to our homeschool right now, given everything else that we're using and implementing successfully. We're still going to be using them, but I do want to highlight them as being things that I don't think are at this point really adding a whole heck of a lot to our school year. The first one is going to be Build Your Library level 0. This is their Around the World, it's their kindergarten. I think for us, because we have a science component that we're doing, because we have a social studies component that we're doing, and we have solid read alouds kind of lined up, I struggle a little bit with finding the necessity of Build Your Library in addition to, and especially because Build Your Library is a 5-day-a-week program, we are behind because implementing it every single day has not been something that I'm very good at at this point in time. I feel like the science is really focused on animal studies, and that's not really what we are wanting to focus on that much. We love learning about the animals, but it feels a little bit busier. It's kind of takes away from everything else that we are doing and just feels a little bit like, okay, let's go ahead, sit down and get our school done, as opposed to this really enriching experience. The second thing that we've struggled with implementing is Blossom and Root, which I kind of had a feeling that Blossom and Root would be this way just because what our experience was with it last year in our preschool year. We do like what we have done, but let's talk a little bit about the different components. So we have the whole bundle for Blossom and Root level 0, which is their kindergarten. The science, we'll start with science. Science has, you get these little space letters from Zula, who's an alien, and you're trying to prepare for a trip to space. My kids actually do really like that, and we enjoy the letters. And we have enjoyed the conversations about what life needs on earth and having these conversations. That's actually tied really well with BFSU. That has been the most successful thing so far that we've enjoyed. But yeah, I actually would keep that. That one I think I would say yes, we like it. The language arts side. Now, they have some really, really good picture book and book recommendations, and we are enjoying the recommendations, but they include copy work, which is like very basic handwriting practice, which to us feels a little bit like busy work because we have our other handwriting practice, which we already struggled with implementing. So we've kind of dropped that component of it. I feel like the addition of that is more busy and less necessary. There's also narration and journaling and things like that are tied to the literature that you're reading. Now, I like them in theory, but they're just not fitting very well with what we are doing. And I wonder, part of me thinks it's just because we have so many other resources that this particular one is just not the strongest resource. It's still pretty good. It's just not the strongest, and it's not the one that's reached out to us very much. So we've struggled a little bit with implementing Blossom and Root. And then nature was another one that they have a Blossom and Root nature that we were trying to do. And I'll be honest, we pulled out the Burgess book of animals, like of animal stories, and it just felt like it was just one more thing. So we actually are going to pause that one. I think we will circle back to those animal stories when we feel ready for them. But we're not actually going to do that one at this point in time. So I would call those as being a little bit blah-y. Not the worst, but not the best. We are still going to try to implement those as much as possible and try to use the program. We're not abandoning them. We're not giving up on them. We're just going to shift a little bit how we are doing them. Okay, now I just want to wrap up and talk about what the hardest thing was this past month. Because honestly, you guys, there was one week in particular that was absolute torture. It was torture for me. It was not fun for my kids. And it wasn't actually the school, it was parenting. I feel like parenting has been really tough at times, and it really does affect school. It's hard to be patient with school when parenting is difficult. When I was at odds a little bit, there's this friction between my kids and I, it did make schooling more difficult. And getting past that was very hard. We managed to get past it. We are kind of on the same page, but parenting, I just want to highlight, is not easy. And it was definitely a challenge in this past month, was navigating some of our just general parenting. So we were working a little bit through listening to our bodies when our body is maybe feeling hungry or tired or needs to use the restroom. Understanding what our body is asking rather than being unkind to other people and taking out our discomfort on others was a huge teaching moment from a parenting perspective. And that did affect a little bit our homeschooling, not a little bit, a lot our homeschooling. So we pulled in some more resources to help us with that. But also we started setting up like cyclical snacking and potty breaks and things like that to try to make things go a little bit smoother. But that was a little bit difficult. We also have been struggling a little bit with always being, we'll just say, with handling our frustration as a whole. I don't think anything crazy. It's just typical 5-year-old and 3-year-old behavior, but it is very hard. Like, I feel like when my kids were doing daycare, they were like these little angels at school because they don't behave that way, let's say, with like a teacher or a care provider. But I'm still mom. So there is definitely like this sense of security where they feel like they can act out. And we navigate through that. And I'm glad that I'm here and I'm glad that I'm present. But boy, it has been hard. It has been very hard. It has been a little bit of a struggle from a parenting perspective. Very good, but a struggle. Okay, so that is it, you guys. That's our September wrap up. All in all, extremely well, going very well, very positively. We're looking forward to our break here in October. yeah, let's go ahead. We'll wrap up here. Comment down below and let me know what your September looked like. What were some of your good moments, your bad moments? And let's, just take a deep breath and let September go. If it was not the greatest month, that's okay. We can move on. October is now a new month. If it was a great month, awesome. Let's just hold on to those memories and build off of it with this upcoming month. But don't hold yourself to impossible standards. Not every single month, not every single school day is going to be perfect or wonderful or beautiful or exactly how you planned it, and that's okay. All right, you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.